In the far reaches of the galaxy, where alien civilizations thrived in harmony with technology and medicine, there existed a facility unlike any other. It was a grand medical complex designed to heal the most advanced species in the universe. The walls glistened with metallic surfaces, and the air hummed with the sound of high-tech machines that helped to mend the most severe injuries. For centuries, the alien race that controlled this facility had cured thousands of species, beings of all shapes, sizes, and capabilities, but never had they encountered a species like humans. The nurse, an experienced alien named Zoreth, was as efficient as any of her kind. With delicate, elongated fingers and luminous violet eyes, she moved through the sterile halls with a sense of purpose. Zoreth had seen it all: the jagged injuries of monstrous creatures, the complex healing needs of otherworldly beings, and even the delicate care needed for the dying species. But nothing prepared her for this. Her patient, a human male, had been brought to the facility just hours earlier. He was a pilot, the sole survivor of a crash on an uninhabited planet, and his condition was dire. The human's body had suffered extreme trauma: broken bones, deep lacerations, internal bleeding. He was, quite frankly, on the brink of death. The medical team was already working to stabilize him when Zoreth entered the room. She had seen his chart, and by all accounts, expected the procedure to take days, perhaps weeks, to heal him. But there was one thing about humans that always intrigued Zoreth: their vulnerability. With a soft hum, the lights in the room brightened, illuminating the patient lying unconscious on the advanced medical bed. Zoreth adjusted her gloves and proceeded to check his vitals. A faint beep echoed through the room as she ran her scans, analyzing his blood pressure, heart rate, and oxygen levels. She had treated hundreds of beings from hundreds of planets, yet humans always fascinated her. They were fragile in comparison to most alien species, often plagued by illnesses and injuries that seemed trivial to others. But the reason she had studied humans for so long was because, despite their fragility, they had an innate resilience that many other species lacked. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. Zoreth turned her attention to the most pressing issue: the deep wounds across his chest. She activated the healing array, a floating holographic device filled with nanomachines that would repair the tissue at a microscopic level. Normally, the healing process was slow, requiring constant monitoring and adjustments, but Zoreth had no reason to suspect that the human's healing would be any different. She moved closer to the human's body, beginning the first stages of treatment. The devices hovered over his wounds, releasing tiny particles that would repair the broken cells. Zoreth watched with focused precision, keeping an eye on the readings on the monitor. The first signs of healing began to appear, slow and steady. Yet, something was off. The scan showed rapid tissue regeneration. Zoreth raised an eyebrow. It was unusual, but not completely unheard of. Some species had faster healing rates, but as she continued to observe, the rate of regeneration only increased. The wounds were closing much faster than they should have. What was happening? Was it a malfunction in the healing technology? Zoreth immediately checked the readings. Everything appeared normal. But the human's body was healing at an unprecedented rate. She moved to a different part of the room, analyzing the data from various angles. The numbers confirmed it. The patient's injuries were disappearing, almost as if time itself had sped up for him. Curiosity flooded Zoreth's mind. She had to understand what was going on. A fleeting thought crossed her mind. Could this human be somehow different? Could he possess abilities that other humans didn't? Zoreth had read about extraordinary humans. Some were known for their physical strength, others for their mental resilience. But this was something new. This wasn't just a fast recovery. This was a complete transformation. She took a step back, trying to process what she was seeing. The human's body was now almost entirely healed. His broken bones were mending, his organs were stabilizing, and the deep cuts were disappearing in front of her eyes. It was as though the wounds had never existed at all. Impossible. Zoreth checked her instruments again, hoping for an explanation. But there was none. She had been working in this field for centuries and had never witnessed anything like this. She felt a strange flutter of excitement in her chest, a feeling she rarely allowed herself to experience. But more than that, she felt something else, a deep sense of respect for this strange creature, a human. As she stood there, watching the rapid regeneration unfold before her eyes, a mixture of confusion and awe settled over her. What was it about humans that made them so capable of surviving the impossible? What was it about this human that allowed him to recover so quickly? She needed answers. Zoreth took a deep breath and adjusted the settings on her console, bringing up a detailed scan of the human's DNA. She scrutinized the strands of genetic code, looking for any anomalies or differences from what she had studied before. Human DNA was relatively well known in her field, and she had worked with it numerous times. But this was different. As she examined the strands, something caught her eye. There, embedded within the human's genetic code, was an unusual sequence. It was unlike anything Zoreth had ever seen. The sequence appeared to be a form of self-repair mechanism, almost like a fail-safe for injuries, an embedded blueprint for survival. This human's body wasn't just healing. It was rewriting itself, using a genetic code that was beyond even her understanding. Could it be that this was the key to human survival? Was it possible that humans had an inherent power for regeneration built into their very DNA? Zoreth couldn't be sure, but this discovery was monumental. The alien nurse's mind raced with questions. She had been taught to view all species with a level of detachment, alien or human. Their lives were often no different to her. But this human was different. She could feel it deep in her gut. There was something special about him, something extraordinary. And now, as she watched him recover at a speed that defied all logic, Zoreth couldn't help but wonder. Was humanity the most resilient species in the universe? Could this be the beginning of a new era in intergalactic medicine? The answers, Zoreth knew, would have to wait. For now, she simply watched as the human slowly began to stir, his eyes flickering open for the first time since his arrival. The alien nurse stood silently, unsure of what to expect next. The human blinked, his eyes adjusting to the lights of the alien room. He glanced around, confusion clouding his features. Then his gaze shifted to Zoreth. He stared at her for a long moment, his expression one of disbelief. But there was something more, something deeper in his eyes, a glimmer of recognition, of understanding. Zoreth could only stare back, her mind still reeling from the unexpected sight before her. Zoreth couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary had just occurred. She had seen countless beings, countless injuries, and countless recoveries in her years as a medical practitioner. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for what had just unfolded in the healing chamber. She had studied human biology extensively, yet what she witnessed in the last few minutes defied every rule of biology she knew. The human, barely a moment ago a broken wreck of flesh and bone, now lay before her, almost fully healed. His chest, once a grotesque collection of shattered ribs and gaping wounds, had begun to form a smooth surface again. His skin, once pale and bruised, had returned to its healthy tone. The blood that had leaked from his body earlier had stopped flowing entirely, and even the smallest cuts were no longer visible. But what baffled her most was how quickly it had all happened. Zoreth stood still, staring at the monitor beside her, which now displayed the most perplexing data she had ever seen. Her first assumption, that the equipment was malfunctioning, had quickly been ruled out. The readings were consistent with the human's rapid recovery, but how was it possible? Humans were not known for their regenerative abilities. Their biology was considered fragile compared to many species in the galaxy. They didn't heal quickly. They were slow, vulnerable, prone to infection and long-term damage. Yet here was a human whose recovery had transcended all of that. Zoreth moved to the bed where the human now lay, his breathing steady and calm. She studied his face, his eyes closed, his brow furrowed, as if he were still in a deep sleep. His chest rose and fell with every breath, each one more stable than the last. His body was healing at an unimaginable rate, but there was something more, a feeling Zoreth could not ignore. She felt an inexplicable sense of awe. With every minute that passed, the human's body was repairing itself faster and faster. This wasn't just about physical healing. This was something deeper. Zoreth had encountered species that healed quickly, some faster than humans, others slower. But this was something new, something far more profound. She glanced at the readings once more, but no new data was giving her an answer. There was no explanation for this. Her mind wandered as she tried to understand what had just happened. She thought back to the human's arrival, the condition he had been in. Even with the finest medical technology, no other being would have recovered this quickly. Zoreth had read human physiology reports, but they didn't prepare her for this. Could this human be unique? Had she stumbled upon a rare specimen, one whose healing ability surpassed anything known in the galaxy? But then, she recalled the data from his arrival. His scans didn't show anything out of the ordinary, nothing suggesting an extraordinary level of regenerative capability. There were no unusual markers in his genetic code, no advanced cellular mechanisms. Yet, his recovery was undeniable. A growing sense of urgency filled Zoreth's chest. She had to know more. She had to find the truth behind this phenomenon. Whatever it was, the human's body wasn't simply healing. It was adapting, evolving, recovering in a way that no species Zoreth had ever encountered could. For the first time in her career, Zoreth felt both a sense of excitement and fear. She had always seen herself as an observer, detached, neutral, unaffected by the lives of the beings she treated. But now, standing before the healing human, she couldn't remain detached any longer. There was something about this human that was changing her. She could no longer look at humans with the same clinical indifference. This human had made her question everything she thought she knew. Zoreth moved closer to the human, gently placing her hand on his arm. The warmth of his body surprised her. It wasn't just the temperature, it was the energy. There was something almost palpable in the air around him, as if his body itself was emanating something powerful, something she couldn't fully comprehend. It was as though he was not only healing himself, but radiating an energy that defied the laws of physics. She withdrew her hand, feeling an inexplicable shiver run down her spine. For a brief moment, she simply stood there, frozen in her thoughts. How could this be? She had always believed that alien technology and medicine were the pinnacle of healing. Their advancements could mend the most devastating wounds, bring species back from the brink of death. Yet here she was, staring at a human whose recovery was surpassing even their best technology. The human began to stir. His eyelids fluttered as he slowly regained consciousness. Zoreth's heart raced. Was he truly aware of what had happened to him? Did he realize how close he had come to death, or was he simply going to wake up as if nothing had changed? His eyes opened, and Zoreth took a step back. The human blinked several times, adjusting to the light of the room. His gaze shifted from the ceiling to her, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked. The human's expression was one of confusion, as if he were trying to make sense of where he was. His brow furrowed slightly as he tried to move, but his body seemed to be working just fine now. No signs of pain or weakness. He was fully aware, and his senses were returning to him with remarkable speed. Zoreth watched him, unsure of what to say. She had expected him to be disoriented, groggy, perhaps even struggling to move, but instead, he sat up with ease, his movements fluid and natural. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice surprisingly steady. Zoreth hesitated. This was a turning point. The human was no longer the fragile, broken being he had been just hours before. He was alive, and he was well, far more than she had ever expected. "You are in a medical facility," Zoreth said carefully, her voice steady, though her heart was still pounding. "You were injured. We are treating you." The human nodded slowly, as if processing the information. He looked at his body, which was now completely healed, with only faint scars to show the damage that had once been there. His expression shifted to one of bewilderment. "I was hurt?" he asked. Zorath could only nod, trying to maintain her composure. "Yes, but now you are well." For a moment, the human remained silent, still staring at his body in disbelief. Then he spoke again, his voice softer this time. "What happened? How am I healed so quickly?" Zorath didn't have an answer. She had no explanation for him, only questions of her own. "I am still studying your recovery," she said. "What I know is that your healing process is unlike anything I have ever seen before." The human seemed to absorb the weight of her words. His gaze softened, and for a brief moment, Zorath saw something in his eyes, something that suggested an understanding that went beyond mere survival. It was as if, in that brief exchange, the human had gained an insight into his own existence that no other species had. For Zorath, that was when it hit her. This was not just a miraculous healing. This was a revelation, a discovery that could change everything. The potential of humanity had always been underestimated, dismissed as weak and vulnerable. But this human had just proven something fundamental, that beneath the surface, there was more to human resilience than anyone could have ever imagined. Zorath was no longer just a detached observer. She was witnessing the dawn of something extraordinary. She was watching history unfold before her eyes. As the human continued to stare at his hands, his face a mixture of awe and uncertainty, Zorath knew that everything had changed. The future of medicine, of healing, of species relations in the galaxy, none of it would ever be the same again. And for the first time, she wasn't sure whether to be excited or frightened by the unknown. Zorath sat alone in the observation room, her eyes fixed on the monitor. The human, now fully recovered, had been discharged from the healing chamber just an hour ago. She watched him through a thick pane of transparent material, her mind racing with thoughts she had never entertained before. The man who had once been a broken shell of a being, near death, was now standing tall in the medical wing of the facility. He was no longer the fragile, vulnerable species that she had assumed humans were. No, this human was something entirely different, and Zorath had only just begun to understand why. It wasn't just his rapid healing that had captivated her, it was something deeper, something she had only realized when he spoke, his voice calm but filled with curiosity and awe. The way he had looked at her, not with fear or weakness, but with an unspoken understanding. It was as if he knew, on some primal level, that his recovery was not just a fluke. It was a testament to something greater, something inherent in humanity. Zorath had long studied humans, but the idea of them being more than just a weak, fragile species had never crossed her mind. She had always seen them as a curious but insignificant part of the universe. Her species, advanced and sophisticated in their medical technologies, had often regarded humans with a sense of detached pity. They were simply too vulnerable, too easily broken, to be taken seriously in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But in the last few hours, Zorath had witnessed a change, a shift in her understanding of the human species. Could it be possible? Could humanity truly possess an untapped potential that no one, not even their own kind, had realized? What if the very thing she had always considered their weakness, fragility, was actually their greatest strength? Zorath's mind swirled with conflicting emotions. On the one hand, she felt the excitement of discovery. The human had, without a doubt, proved something extraordinary. But on the other hand, a deep, unsettling fear gnawed at her. The implications of this discovery were far-reaching. If humans truly possessed this hidden potential, this capacity for incredible resilience, this ability to heal and adapt at rates unimaginable to other species, what did it mean for the galaxy? What did it mean for the other species that had long dominated the universe, assuming their superiority over humanity? She had to find answers. Zorath reached out and touched a panel beside her. A series of holographic screens flickered to life, displaying detailed scans of the human's physiology, his genetic makeup, and his rapid recovery data. She had analyzed everything from his blood pressure to his DNA sequence, and yet nothing seemed to explain the phenomenon she had witnessed. His healing process had defied logic, ignoring all medical principles that had governed her people's understanding of biology. As she reviewed the data once more, she found herself drawn to the section that had fascinated her the most, the human's DNA. Unlike any species she had encountered, there was something strange, almost alien about the way it worked. The sequence was stable, consistent, and predictable, but there was an anomaly embedded deep within it. This anomaly wasn't a mutation. It was a genetic feature that appeared to allow the human body to repair itself faster, to regenerate tissue at a rate far beyond any known species. She had never seen anything like it. Zorath leaned back, her mind spinning with possibilities. She had always believed that her people were the pinnacle of medical science. They had cured diseases, restored life to beings near death, and even perfected the art of organ regeneration. But now she was starting to question whether they had been overlooking something fundamental about biology. What if the key to life, the key to truly overcoming death, was something far simpler than advanced technology? What if it was hidden in the very biology of an imperfect, fragile species like humans? A voice interrupted her thoughts. Zorath. She turned to see the human standing in the doorway, his posture strong, his expression calm. The man, whose name she had learned was Michael, had approached her cautiously, his eyes searching hers for answers. Despite the incredible recovery he had undergone, there was still something vulnerable about him, a quiet uncertainty that lingered beneath his calm demeanor. Zorath nodded at him, gesturing for him to enter. "Come in, Michael," she said, her voice softer than she intended. "I've been reviewing your data, your recovery. It's unlike anything I have ever seen." Michael stepped into the room, standing just a few feet from her. He seemed unaware of the gravity of what had transpired. He was simply looking for answers, just as she was. "I don't understand," he said quietly, his voice tinged with both confusion and curiosity. "How is this even possible? I was barely hanging on." And then everything changed. I woke up, and I was fine. Better than fine. Zorath studied him closely. There was no fear in his eyes, no panic over what had happened to him. Instead, there was a sense of awe, a recognition that something profound had occurred. He was still processing it, just as she was, but his response was one of quiet acceptance. He didn't question the miracle. He embraced it. "I've been trying to understand that myself," Zorath admitted. "Your recovery, your healing, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. And I've treated hundreds of species." Michael looked at her, his brow furrowing. "I'm just a regular guy," he said, as if trying to make sense of the situation. "I don't feel special. I'm not superhuman. I'm just me." Zorath shook her head, a soft smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "But you are special, Michael. You've proven that humans are capable of things no one has ever believed possible. This healing ability, this resilience, it's not something we've ever seen before. It's not just the technology or the treatments. It's something inherent in you, something biological. Your body. It's not just healing. It's evolving." Michael's eyes widened slightly, as if he were beginning to understand the gravity of the situation. "You mean, this is just how humans are?" Zorath nodded. "I don't know yet, but I think it's something you've always had. Something that's been hidden beneath the surface. Perhaps humanity has been underestimated for far too long." The silence between them grew, both of them processing the weight of her words. Zorath, for the first time, saw humanity in a new light. She had always thought of them as weak, fragile creatures, caught in a universe that was too large and too dangerous for them. But now, she realized, they were far more than that. Humanity was resilient, adaptable, capable of surviving the impossible, and perhaps, in a way, that made them the most dangerous species of all. "I don't think you fully understand what this means," Zorath said softly, almost to herself. Your recovery, it could change everything. For you, for your species, for the galaxy. Michael's gaze softened. What do you mean? Zorath turned to face him fully, her expression serious. You don't realize it, but your species has potential beyond what anyone can imagine. You've survived this far, despite all the odds stacked against you. And now, I believe there's a new chapter for humanity. One where you're not the underdog anymore. One where you can thrive, not just survive. For a long moment, there was no response. Michael simply stood there, taking in her words. Slowly, he nodded, as if accepting the weight of what Zorath had said. He was just a human. Fragile, vulnerable, yet stronger than any alien could have imagined. And Zorath, the alien who had once seen humans as nothing more than a fragile, broken species, realized that she had been wrong. Humanity was not weak. They were powerful in ways the universe had yet to comprehend. She smiled, a genuine smile, filled with newfound respect. You have no idea what you're capable of, Michael, she whispered, but I intend to help you find out. Days passed in the medical facility, and Zorath found herself drawn back to the human time and time again. Michael had been completely healed, and was now walking freely within the halls of the alien medical station. His every move exuded strength and vitality, qualities that Zorath had never associated with humans before. It was as if the human species had been hiding a secret, one that only a few could ever hope to uncover. Zorath's mind had been racing ever since she had come to the startling realization about humanity's potential. She had witnessed it firsthand, how a single human could recover from catastrophic injuries in mere minutes. There was something profound about that. Something beyond biology, beyond the healing technologies that her people had perfected. It was something innate, something that lay deep within the essence of humanity. But there was more to it than that. Zorath had begun to understand that this ability wasn't just about survival. It wasn't just about overcoming injury or pain. It was about a fundamental resilience that extended beyond the physical, a resilience that humans carried within themselves, in every aspect of their existence. Zorath had been trained to view her work through the lens of cold logic and precision. Her people had always been the ones who healed, who perfected the art of medicine. But as she stood in the observation room, watching Michael interact with the alien doctors and healers, she saw something that went beyond science. She saw something that couldn't be measured by technology. She saw humanity's heart. It wasn't just their ability to survive. It was their drive to thrive. Zorath walked down the sterile white halls of the facility, her mind fixed on the idea of the human spirit. She had watched Michael interact with the staff, learning their ways, asking questions, and absorbing every bit of knowledge they offered. He was determined, focused, but also humble, a characteristic she hadn't expected from someone who had just experienced such a miraculous recovery. His gratitude was evident in everything he did, and it was clear that he wasn't just grateful for his physical healing. He was grateful for the opportunity to understand the universe, to see beyond his own limitations. In that moment, Zorath realized something else. This was the true power of humanity. It wasn't just about the ability to heal. It was about their boundless curiosity, their relentless pursuit of knowledge, and their desire to make the world around them better. Humanity, for all its flaws and weaknesses, possessed a remarkable quality: hope. And with hope came the willingness to grow, to change, and to become something greater than one's circumstances. Zorath had never seen a species like this. As she walked, lost in thought, she noticed Michael standing at the end of the corridor, gazing out a large window that looked out over the alien landscape. The planet outside was a swirling mass of vibrant colors. Forests of shimmering green, oceans of turquoise, and distant mountain ranges stretching out into the horizon. It was breathtaking, an alien world in every sense of the word, yet Michael stood there as though he belonged. She walked toward him slowly, unsure of what she would say. She had never expected to feel so connected to a human. Yet in these past days, she had come to realize that they were not so different after all. Despite their differences, despite the vast chasm between their species, they shared something fundamental: the desire to live, to grow, to evolve. And that was something Zorith had never truly understood until now. "Michael," she said softly, as she approached him. He turned toward her, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Are you feeling well?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Better than I've ever felt," he said, his voice carrying a weight of sincerity. "I can't explain it. I feel like I've been given a second chance, not just at life, but at everything." Zorith smiled. "You have, Michael. You've been given something many never experience, a chance to understand the true potential of your species." He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Zorith paused, searching for the right words. "Your recovery. It isn't just about healing. It's about what lies beneath. You humans have something that I had never understood. You have resilience, yes, but you also have something far more powerful: hope. And hope is what drives you to become more than what you were, more than what anyone thought you could be." Michael looked out the window again, his gaze far away. "Hope," he murmured. "That's something we don't always see in ourselves. It's easy to forget when everything feels so uncertain." "Perhaps," Zorith agreed. "But it's always there, in every moment, in every human heart. It's what makes you different, and it's what will allow you to survive the greatest challenges this universe has to offer." Michael turned back to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You've helped me see that," he said quietly. "I never realized how strong we could be until now. I never realized that we weren't just surviving. We were building something. We were building a future." Zorith nodded, a sense of pride swelling within her. "I don't think you understand just how powerful your kind truly is. I've seen many species come and go, each with their own strengths. But you have something unique. You are capable of overcoming anything, not because of your strength, but because of your hope. And that will be your legacy. That will be your gift to the universe." The two stood in silence for a long time, watching the alien landscape stretch out before them. Zorith had never seen a human look so resolute. Michael was no longer the fragile, broken being he had been. He was someone who understood the value of his own resilience, of his own potential. And it was clear to Zorith that the human race had only just begun to understand the power they possessed. "This isn't just about me," Michael finally said, his voice steady. "It's about all of us. We need to share this gift, this hope, with the rest of our people. We need to show them that we are more than just survivors. We are a species capable of greatness." Zorith smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You are right. This is just the beginning. You humans have the potential to change the galaxy. And I believe you will." As the sun began to set on the alien planet, casting long shadows across the landscape, Zorith and Michael stood side by side, two beings from different worlds, united by a shared understanding of the potential that lay within them. They were no longer separate, no longer divided by species, or by the false belief that one was superior to the other. They were, in that moment, united in the belief that humanity was capable of overcoming anything the universe could throw at them. And as the stars began to twinkle above, the promise of a new dawn, one of hope, resilience, and endless possibility, began to unfold.